Ever tried buying a cup of coffee with Bitcoin?
Hmm.
One day it's a couple of bucks, the next, bam, you're practically handing over your entire digital wallet. That's the wild ride stablecoins are trying to, well, tame.
It's a bit like, I don't know, building a house on a roller coaster, isn't it? Crypto is all about those wild swings. So trying to create something stable inside that system. Ambitious, to say the least.
Totally. And the thing is, this isn't some tiny experiment anymore. One of the articles we're looking at said this market is worth over $162 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. This means a lot of people are betting big that stablecoins are the bridge between, like, our everyday money and the whole crypto universe.
Right, because the more people jump into crypto, the bigger that volatility problem gets.
Yeah.
Right, especially if businesses want to get involved. Stablecoins, at least in theory, let you play the crypto game without the constant worry of, oh no, did my investment crash overnight?
Okay, so let's break down this stability thing. Our sources talk about a few different ways to make it happen, each with its own, quirks and potential problems. First up, fiat collateralized stablecoins. Kind of a mouthful.
It's the simplest one, really. Think of it like a digital vault. For every stablecoin out there, there's an equal amount of regular money, dollars, euros, whatever, locked away safely. Like a digital version of those old-timey banknotes that said they'd give you gold if you brought it in.
Okay, so that's where Tether comes in. USDT, as the crypto folks call it. It's the big dog of stablecoins, right?
Definitely. The most popular example. But being top dog comes with, shall we say, extra attention. Our sources make a big deal about audits being crucial in this system. Just because something says, hey, we got real money backing this up, doesn't mean we got to believe them blindly. Someone independent needs to be checking, keeping things honest, you know?
So it's not just about swapping out our banks for digital versions, huh? Trust is still a big deal, even in the decentralized world of crypto.
Huge deal. And that takes us to our next title, commodity-backed stablecoins. Instead of being tied to regular currencies, these are hooked to the price of actual stuff, gold, for example.
So it's like having a digital token that represents a chunk of gold stashed in some high security vault somewhere.
Exactly. Tether Gold, that's XAUT, is a perfect example. This type might appeal more to investors who are, I don't know, a little skeptical of regular currencies or worried about inflation eating away at their savings.
Right, but one article mentioned how complicated storing and guarding all that gold can get. It made me think, how can you be sure that your digital gold is actually backed by, real gold bars somewhere?
That's the million-dollar question. Transparency is key with this type of stablecoin. Who's holding the gold? Where is it? Is it insured? These are the questions investors need to be asking before they jump in.
All right, so we've got stable coins pegged to regular money and others to precious metals. What other tricks do they have up their sleeves?
Now we get to the really interesting stuff. Crypto collateralized stablecoins. This is where things get kind of meta, because instead of relying on something outside the crypto world, these are backed by other cryptocurrencies.
Wait, wouldn't that be like super unstable? It's like backing up your computer on a drive that's just as likely to crash.
That's where over-collateralization comes in. Basically, they try to reduce the risk by backing the stablecoin with a larger value of crypto than what they're issuing.
So it's like a safety net underneath the safety net.
Exactly. DAI, or DAI, is one of the most well-known examples. It stays pegged to the US dollar by using smart contracts and those over-collateralized crypto deposits, mainly Ethereum.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But this last type of stablecoin algorithmic now, this is where things get really interesting and maybe a little confusing.
Yeah, they're fascinating, that's for sure. Algorithmic stablecoins don't use reserves at all. They rely on algorithms to keep the price steady, like trying to control the weather with lines of code.
Algorithms managing money, that's both futuristic and kind of scary at the same time.
It's definitely a bold move, no doubt. And not everyone's convinced it'll work. The algorithms are supposed to adjust how many stablecoins are out there based on what the market's doing to keep the price, stable. But one article brought up a pretty big warning sign.
They mentioned the whole Terra USD crash, right? Not exactly a ringing endorsement for the whole algorithmic stablecoin idea.
Yeah, the collapse of Terra USD, or UST, was a harsh reminder that even the smartest algorithms can break. And when they do in the financial world, let's just say the consequences can be brutal.
Sounds like a high risk, high reward kind of deal. But before we get into those potential pitfalls and the whole regulatory side of things, let's take a quick break. And we're back, diving right back into the world of stablecoins. Before the break, we were getting into all the different types, the good, the bad, the potentially risky.
Right, but there's this whole other force at play that we got to talk about.
Right.
Regulation.
Yeah, it's the elephant in the room, that's for sure. Stablecoins have blown up in popularity, but now all the governments and regulators are starting to pay attention. Like, hold on a minute, what's going on here?
It's like a band playing in their garage suddenly getting a call from a record executive. Things are about to change.
And some of these stablecoins are playing some pretty big shows already. We were talking billions of dollars flowing through them. Makes sense the regulators are getting a little nervous.
One of the reports we've got, this one from the IOSCO, that's the International Organization of Securities Commissions, they don't beat around the bush, do they?
Not even a little. They basically said some of these stablecoins, the really big ones, need to be treated like any other important financial institution.
Talking banks, payment systems, the whole 9 yards. Same level of oversight.
So it's not just about keeping an eye on things. They want to bring stablecoins under the same rules as the systems they're, well, trying to stabilize.
Kind of ironic, right? Considering how much the crypto world loves decentralization.
The irony isn't lost on me. But it shows how big this could get. If we're talking everyday transactions, paying for stuff, sending money around, regulators say, hold up, you got to play by the same rules as everyone else. And it seems like things are already moving on the lawmaking front, especially in the U.S. This Lummis-Gillibrand bill keeps coming up in our research.
Right, the Lummis-Gillibrand bill, that's the U.S. lawmakers trying to figure out, okay, how do we handle stablecoins? One of their big ideas is making every stablecoin company register with the government.
So no more, like, creating your own digital dollar in your basement.
Pretty much. They're going for transparency, accountability, making sure things are on the up and up.
Trying to walk that tightrope between letting this new technology grow and, making sure nobody gets scammed.
Exactly. It highlights the big question. How do you encourage innovation, this whole new world of finance, but also protect people from the risks that come with something so new?
And this isn't just a U.S. thing, right? We found some interesting stuff happening in Europe, too.
Right. The European Union, they've got their markets in crypto assets regulation, MiCA for short, and let me tell you, they're not messing around. Especially when it comes to those algorithmic stable coins. Remember those?
Oh, yeah, the ones run by code. What's their take on those?
They're basically saying, nope, not having it, at least for the ones that aren't backed by anything solid. They think they're way too risky, too hard to understand what's really going on, and potentially bad news for the whole financial system.
Wow. So it seems like while the U.S. is trying to figure out how to regulate what's already out there, the EU is being proactive, like, let's prevent some fires before they start. Totally different approaches.
It shows you how this is a global puzzle. Each country, each region is trying to figure out, how do we fit this new technology into our existing systems, and what problems might pop up down the line? It's like trying to write a rule book for a game that keeps changing right before your eyes.
And like any game, there will be winners and losers. But before we get into all that, how this impacts investors and the whole future of decentralized finance, we got to take another quick break. We'll be back in a flash. And we are back for the final stretch of our deep dive into stablecoins.
The home stretch.
We've covered how they work, the good, the bad, the potentially ugly when it comes to regulations. But what does it all mean? Like, for someone listening who's into crypto, how does this affect them?
The million-dollar question, right? And the truth is, we're still figuring it out as we go.
Right.
Remember that story about the guy who bought a pizza with Bitcoin years ago? Back then, Bitcoin was this niche thing, a curiosity. Now look at it, global phenomenon. Stablecoins, they're on a similar path, but moving way faster.
So are we saying stablecoins are going to be the thing that finally bridges that gap between, like, our regular financial system and the crypto world?
It's a real possibility. Imagine using crypto for everything groceries, sending money across borders, all without that fear of waking up to a financial roller coaster ride. That's the promise of stablecoins.
But there are still those risks we talked about, right? Algorithmic stablecoins could still go haywire. And even the ones backed by actual assets, it still comes down to trust and transparency, doesn't it?
Exactly. Terios D crashing and burning. That was a wake-up call. And even with the fiat-backed ones, people are still worried about, are they really being transparent? Is there funny business going on? Those questions haven't gone away.
And then there's the whole regulation dance. On one hand, having clear rules could make things more stable, more legitimate for stablecoins.
Yeah.
But too much regulation, and doesn't that kind of go against the whole idea of crypto being decentralized in the first place?
It's a tough balance to strike. Think of it like this. Would you rather invest in a company that's always operating in a gray area, rules changing all the time, maybe a crackdown coming, or one that's playing by clear rules, even if it means they can't do whatever they want.
I see what you're saying. I think most folks, especially if they're new to crypto, would prefer knowing where things stand.
Exactly. And that seems to be where things are heading globally. The US, the EU, everyone's realizing stablecoins are a big deal now, and they need some ground rules to keep things from going off the rails.
So for our listeners who are, trying to navigate this whole thing, what's the main takeaway here? What should they keep in mind?
Stay informed, be skeptical, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Just because something calls itself stable doesn't mean it's risk-free. Understand how the different types work, pay attention to what's happening with regulations, and do your own research before you put any money down.
Excellent advice. We've gone deep today, haven't we? The tech stuff, the financial side, the regulations. It's definitely a space that's worth keeping a close eye on.
For sure. Stablecoins are this fascinating mix of tech, money, and good old-fashioned rules. The choices being made now will shape how we think about money, value, even trust in this digital world we're building.
That's a powerful thought to end on. If this deep dive has piqued your interest, I definitely encourage everyone to, well, keep diving deeper into the world of stablecoins.
Who knows, you might just find yourselves at the forefront of a revolution.
And on that note, that is a wrap on another episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, happy exploring, everyone.